Awesome. Hey, everybody. We started relatively on time. That's
We
Reaper
did.
time, which is, yeah, I mean, 5 minutes after is pretty damn good, I think. Hey, welcome
For
to the
us, that's
Crow's Nest.
astounding.
It is. It's
We
Crow's
have
Nest,
another
December
astounding stat.
7th.
I think this is the fourth week in a row, isn't it?
Oh, fourth week in a row. Yeah, let's not
That we've
jinx us,
actually had
but
a
yeah.
show.
Is
Oh
this a
my gosh.
record streak for us?
Probably. It's some kind of record somewhere in the galaxy.
Uh, all right. So today, um, we have, who do we have today, Jason?
We have, can I call you, do I call you Mr. Dude or Sculpt
Mr.
Dude or
Dude.
Mr. Sculpt Dude?
Yeah,
Mr.
We have Pat
Sculptor.
Keith. I know
yeah.
him as
Hi.
Pat Keith.
Right.
You may see his posts as Patrick Keith or Bombshell Miniatures or any number of different permutations of his work all over the
Yeah, I,
internet, as a matter of fact.
I, I mostly post as both Bombshell Miniatures and myself. That Sculpt Dude moniker that I have on there is like from before Bombshell, and you know how we used to go on the sculpting forums and you had to put in
Yep.
like a. That's
No,
where
I
that comes
know.
from.
You're
Sculpt Dude.
stuck with
Yeah.
it, man.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's stuck with it. And
Yeah.
and I posted stuff, like client work that I would do. I would post over to that, and then the Bombshell
Yep.
stuff is for the store.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you're not just Bombshell Miniatures. I mean, Pat has been around for a long time, and Pat sculpted for a ton of folks.
Yes.
Right.
Including
A bunch.
Reaper, including Dark Sword. I'm just rattling off the two off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a lot of other ones out there.
Yeah, I've
You
got a
did some
few
stuff for
CMON things and a
Privateer.
few Privateer
Yeah.
Press things. Yeah, yep,
Privateer,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I've been all over the place. Yeah.
Dark Sword,
Well,
Victoria
Mhm.
Miniatures.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we're
and
getting rolling on the show today.
yeah.
Thanks for
Well,
yeah. If you're not watching the Crow's Nest, you're probably doing something else. That's our tagline, isn't it, Jason? I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the new one for this week. I like the way you're
Okay,
kind
I
of
love
peeking
it.
around out from under the
I know.
giant
I'm gonna shrink it
graphic.
back. I'm gonna shrink it back.
Okay. No, I
Yeah,
thought it looked
for the
good the
video.
other way. All right.
Well, it was.
Well,
Anyways. Oh,
Patrick,
so before we get started,
never mind.
let me do a little
Jeez, here we
Got to
show
go.
do the
promo.
official
Step
stuff.
right on me, man.
Gotta do the official stuff. I'm stepping all over you today. Hey, Pokey Tool time. So we got to do Pokey Tool time, and so for every 3 subs, we're going to give away a Pokey Tool. Is that right, Justin? Every 3?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, every 3
No
subs.
deviating today. All right.
No deviating until the end of the
No
show.
deviating.
What show do you think you're on?
Guess who gets a free Pokey Tool today?
I do.
Is it
Jason.
Yeah.
your guest star that
Yes.
you're
Our
on
guest
here?
gets one. Yes.
Patrick, are you familiar? You know about Pokey Tools, obviously.
I
But
I have
this
I have some of the little Scully Pokey Tool things.
Yeah, you don't have this one
this
probably.
But
is
I don't have that one.
This is an exclusive, show exclusive Pokey Tool, Crow's Nest Pokey Tool, sculpted
That's awesome.
by the legendary sculptor herself, Julie Guthrie.
Nice.
She did this for us just out of the blue. I mean, just like a random thing. And then, not to leave Bob out of the equation, of course, Bob Rodolfi. See if I can get this turned right. Bob did the fine, excellent lettering. And I noticed that Bob and Julie, they're green users. They're in chat.
Mm-hmm.
Jedi Jared, Cranky Dog, Kuroenko, Rings is on, Dragon Eye, and that's all I can see. It's because I kind of logged in late. But yeah, we got a lot of steady and regular viewers.
Awesome.
But so yeah, for every 3, and you will, Justin will get out your Pokey Tool directly to you.
I'm looking forward to that. As soon as I can get back to painting, I will put it to good use.
Well, exactly. Or
You
just
can use it for other stuff. It's pretty stout.
Yeah, I mean it's Pokey Tool. It doesn't have to go into.
Right.
So, Pat,
I'm sure there's
I was
probably
trying
a
to
list of
remember
things
the very first time I met you, I think, was in one of the last Gen Cons that was in Milwaukee. And Ron introduced me to you, and you were working on some kind of spider drow sculpture, if I remember
that was
correctly.
at Gen Con. It was
Gen Con.
It was Gen Con, but it was in Indianapolis because
Was it in Indianapolis?
Yeah,
I thought it was Milwaukee.
No, it was one of the early shows in Indy, and
Okay.
yeah, I had done this 1/6 scale Spider
Yeah, it was
Queen
big.
thing. yeah, I did all out of Sculpey and all of this, and I scaled it down and sculpted one for Reaper later on. But
Yeah. Well, I remember asking him because I was fairly new at the time to the Reaper way of doing things, and I said, "You guys are doing 3-ups for your miniatures?" He said, "No, no, no. That's just a private project or something. I can't remember what it was."
yeah,
But
yeah, it was. Well,
yeah,
I was kind of influenced by garage kits and that type of stuff, and
yeah,
that's the scale that they did, and so I've never been able to finish anything else that scale again. It's a lot of work and it takes a long time, and I prefer to work on smaller stuff.
yeah.
So
But that the garage kit stuff is kind of one of your interests, if I remember right. Didn't you go to
uh,
the? Don't you go to the monster
yeah,
cons and stuff?
yeah, we've
Yeah,
been to Wonderfest a
yeah.
few times, and
Wonderfest.
I've taken some busts and some of the other things that we have, and I had worked on doing like a larger scale figure to take to that, and we were going to cast it and stuff, but all of that kind of got tanked with the lockdown and all that, so they
Yeah,
canceled that, and so we got delayed. And I ran a few I ran a few of the creature from the Black Lagoon kits that we did, the larger one. I ran a few of those because I was going to take those to the show last time, and we sold them on the web store.
yeah.
But there's been a shortage of supplies, because of the freeze that we had last February in Texas. It shut down a lot of the urethane production, so getting
Oh man.
urethane resin and stuff
Yeah, I've
became
heard mold
difficult.
rubber hard to come
Hmm.
by for a while as well.
Yep, yep, that's starting to get tricky to get now. So, and all the prices went up. So, we opted not to increase our prices in the web store for that stuff. So we're still able to produce things and not have to increase those prices. But it is more expensive for us to buy those materials now.
All right. All right,
What
Yeah.
Pat.
what
So
is your
this
web
your
store? Hang
first
on a
time
minute,
on
Michael.
our
Wait a minute,
web
Michael.
store.
What is your web store so people can get that
The
going?
website is bombshellminis.com.
Okay.
That's. Do I need to spell that, or you guys are going
No,
to have
I
like a
don't think
link or something?
so. We'll put a
No?
link in the chat, I think, but
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure you
Somebody
got
will.
that in there.
Yeah.
All right. First time guest. First time you are on our show as a guest. And what we like to do with our first time guest is to maybe go back and have your origin story, right? So what got you into the whole miniatures world, and maybe that's what got you initially into the miniature world, and how did it turn into sculpting, or was it sculpting first and then into miniatures? Kind of what's your spider bite story?
Spider bite. Well, I've been into like miniature stuff since Star Wars came out in '77. As a
Hmm.
10-year-old, when you watch that, it's mind blowing. And then the more that I looked at it, it's like, well, there's guys out there that are making these models and stuff and making a living doing that. It's like, well, I want to do something like that. But I didn't have any other outlet for it. So through high school and stuff, playing D&D and gaming and all this. Eventually, I wound up working at one of our local comic book stores, and I was actually there in the comic book store as the assistant manager, like my first year that I was working there, when we got the very first Dark Heaven Legends blister packs from Reaper in stock, and those arrived, and we had to rack them all up and all this kind of thing. So I was running some games as a DM, and we were playing. I kind of got into Warhammer around that time. So a couple of other guys in the web store had gotten me into playing that, and so that's kind of your gateway thing. It's like, well, I want to do some conversions and stuff. I want to make my own character models and things like that. So I I tried, using a milliput and that kind of thing to do those conversions. And then I started sculpting figures and things in milliput, which was kind of difficult
Hmm.
because it's a tricky kind of medium. Um, so our general manager at the comic book store chain knew Ed and Dave, and so they said, "Hey," because she, saw some of the sculpts that I had done, some of the models that I had converted and everything. And she said, well, you need to take these and show these guys that we know, out in Louisville at the time. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I had him at home. We were at a show. We were at some kind of a show out at the DFW airport. And so I ran home and I got my models, and then I drove back out there. It was like an hour back out there. And she took me over and introduced me to the guys, and they invited me to come out to Reaper Miniatures. And I talked to Ed, about it and stuff. And he gave me a little strip of green stuff, the ribbon type, and said, well, here, go play with this and try some things and, bring it back and, let us know. And so I couldn't figure out, this was before the internet. So, I mean, we're talking about, I don't want to say it's like 98, about 99.
Yeah, that's about
Yeah,
right.
somewhere around there. Yeah. So, and I couldn't really figure out how to use it or how to sculpt with it very well. And so I just kind of gave it up. And I was really more focused on, I wanted to be on the cover of Dragon Magazine. I wanted to do art and stuff like that. So I was working on 2D stuff. And that was how I wound up at Gen Con, because I was at the art show. So I just packed up, like a bunch of prints and stuff and set up an art show table. And I had some sculpts with me, some of the things that I'd done. It's like, here's all the stuff I do. And Ron came by, and I guess you were with him. And he was like, well, hey, I remember you from the comic, because Ron was a customer of mine at the comic book store. And so he said, well, what are you doing now? Were you doing anything? And I was like, no, I'm just trying to do 2D stuff, and I haven't really done any sculpting other than just these few things, that I brought with me. And he said, well, hey, if you're really interested in that, and you want to try it out, come out and talk to us and stuff, and we'll take a look at it. We'll see, if you're interested in that. That really kind of made an impression on me. And so I when I went back home, I was like, hey, I'll try it again and see if I can take some stuff out there. And it was just about that time that they were having like the Reaper Artist Conference. This was before ReaperCon was like this big deal.
Yeah.
And it's the Reaper Artist Conference, and they were having that in October, after that Gen Con. So I came back home. I sculpted this chunky little pirate chick and, a few other things, and I brought them out to the show and stuff. And so I got a lot of great feedback from Bob and Julie, and Sandy Garrity was there, and they were very encouraging and all this kind of stuff. And I got to meet Jason, right? I got to meet you. And
yeah, I was there as a neophyte. I was in the same thing, just trying to learn from everybody.
Yeah. So it was fantastic being able to sit around with all of these other artists and everything that had already gotten a lot of this experience and had a.
I think Jim Johnson might have been there too.
At that artist con?
Yeah. I think Jim Johnson was there. And Werner was there shortly afterward.
Yeah. Well, I took a couple of classes. I took a Sandy class there, and I took I think I took a Bob Rodolphe class. And they were, they were really encouraging, and just sitting around with, the other sculptors, and just, being able to talk about, materials and techniques and all this was really a huge help. And so I just kept at it. I kept working at it, and I was able to sell, a few pieces to Reaper and kind of get started doing that. So at this time, I was working at the help desk, so I was sculpting semi-pro, selling a few pieces when I could, and still working at the help desk. So that was cool. Was that what you were looking for?
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, I love that.
I
like to hear.
I hope. Yeah.
No,
you said you were in the 2D.
You never watched our episodes with Aaron Lovejoy or Jim Ludwig, so you're definitely on you haven't reached their windedness yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I did see the Jim Ludwig episode. That was really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I think I was in the chat thing or whatever and stuff. So, yeah.
So your early influences were pretty much in the fantasy and science fiction and movies too. You were a movie buff.
Oh yeah, huge movie buff. And that's what I wanted to do was, as a kid, I wanted to go into effects and make miniatures and do all that stuff. So I love all of that kind of thing. But I'm not in Hollywood. I don't have any of those connections or anything. So it's like, well, I wound up sculpting and that turned out better than, trying to do 2D art, which was really a struggle. For me, it's like I never really did reach that level. I did do some published stuff. I had some covers on, let's see, like that Earth Dawn role-playing
Yep.
game.
Yep.
I did some of that stuff, and smaller publisher kind of things. I did some, like the very first series of the card game for Game of Thrones from Fantasy Flight Games. I did like 12 or 15
Yeah.
cards or something in that. So I mean, I did a few things, but
Well, you
it
did a
just wasn't.
Warlord book for Reaper, didn't you?
We did the book, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
Vicky and I did the layout on that book, and
Yep.
we did a lot of art that was in it, and got it all. There's a few typos that we missed. I mean, so. But yeah, that was a fun project. Was putting that book together and doing all of
Well,
the stuff in it. Yeah,
it wouldn't be Reaper if it didn't have typos in it.
right.
Yeah. That's kind of a branding thing at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
You
if
could
we
just
fast
say, wait.
forward,
No, those typos, that was Ron. Ron got involved in the typo
yeah,
portion.
that's true. Yeah,
Well,
that's
the
true. It probably need to
snippet
be
they sent me
proofread
had
by
the typos in
somebody.
it, and I just put them on the page. So yeah.
Yeah.
So you
That's
did.
funny.
I mean, I don't want to skip over anything, but I just wanted to
Mhm.
bring to everybody's attention. Fast forward, and
Yeah.
are you sitting in your factory now?
Yeah. This is actually my studio space.
Yeah.
So this is where my monitors and stuff are for my computer, and then let's see. I think if I zoom around, this is Vicky's this is Vicky's iPad that I'm doing this on because I don't have any
Sure.
Mhm.
microphones hooked up to the computers or whatever. But that's my workbench over there where I would sculpt practically. And we built all of this stuff about 3 years ago now. So
Yeah. You built it from the
it's
ground up, right? I remember
yeah,
pictures
yeah.
of you
And
clearing the
actually,
ground.
if you go to the Bombshell Facebook page and go to the photos where the albums are, there's actually a photo album that I put together that's got all of the, like, us building, like when this spot right here was nothing but just ground before
Yeah.
they came out and poured the foundation and stuff for it. I've got pictures of all that stuff. And Vicky framed it all up, and I helped her with that. And then I did like the wiring and the electrical and all of that types of. My dad was a commercial electrician, so I kind of had an in on that. So
Sure.
and a lot of YouTube, right? So
Yeah.
that helped. But yeah, it's been great to have a dedicated space, this size to work in and do all of that. So
I wanted to ask you, so back up a little bit in time. When we first met each other, it was probably at an artist con. We were hanging out and painting. And at that time, you were
Mhm.
just basically a freelance sculptor, and most of your work probably was with Reaper.
Mhm.
At what point, what was the decision point when you were like, I'm ready to start my own gigs to invent Bombshell? Was there a certain aha moment, a light bulb moment, a turning point? They were like, I can do this. I want to do this. I want to start branching off and doing my own show.
yeah, that was actually back in like 2000. So it's
Mhm.
I mean, it was like when I was playing Warhammer, I was trying to figure out, because I knew there were other miniatures companies. I knew there was Reaper Miniatures,
Mhm.
and somebody's making this stuff, and they're doing it. And I couldn't afford, having my own spin casting equipment. And I was trying to figure out, well, how do they make, how much does it cost to have plastic bases made? And it turns out it's like, well, there's a company that you can order those from, and now Reaper's
Mhm.
making plastic bases that you can, But so I've always been trying to figure out how to make my own boutique miniatures. And then when these other little boutique miniature companies were popping up, and I'm talking about like Hassle Free and like when Raging Heroes was very, very early and they started doing stuff, I
Mhm.
started looking at these little companies that were popping up, and I was thinking, I can do this. I don't know. I don't have all the stuff put together yet. And I also looked at specifically my freelance career as a stepping stone to building an audience, to putting that together. And I see a lot of Kickstarter projects or even Patreon, and I've done Patreon for a while, but and we can get to that in a minute. But I look at them and without having any kind of a foundation, it's like, well, a lot of Kickstarters they'll launch with something and then they won't get any traction because they don't have a foundation of like an audience in order to reach with
Right.
that particular project. And so, and I knew early on, I was like, well, I got to build some kind of a, people need to know what my work is. So that's one of the reasons why I did work for all these companies that I could, try to work for. It's like, well, I'm trying to build, myself as a brand, or trying to make my work as visible as possible by sculpting for as many different companies or manufacturers as I can,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so once you get to that point, and I watched Kickstarter, and talking about Kickstarter is a very interesting thing, because before Simon jumped on it with their first Kickstarter project, I went and looked at that platform, and there were two miniatures projects on there that were very interesting to me. One Tom Mason ran
Right.
for
Mhm.
his very first Kickstarter, and then there was another one that was what was it? Emily Whitehouse's. I can't
Oh
remember
yeah.
what the. Do you know? You know what I'm talking about?
I
She had
remember it.
like
Yeah,
a
I remember
like
her on.
brush fire,
Is
or
that
they were
on the
little
lamb
animal.
or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
on
on
the
the lamb,
lamb. Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah. It was like the
Yeah.
little animal characters and stuff.
Yeah.
And that one, those were really like, when you did a search on miniatures or anything, there was nothing out there for it.
Right.
And so then, Simon, comes in, and then Reaper, followed with the Bones thing, and it was like, holy cow, there's an audience, that's out there. And I was doing stuff for Reaper at the time, so I thought, well, look, if there's a big interest in putting miniatures and stuff on Kickstarter, this is the time to strike. And that was 2012 was when which was after the Reaper had already ran their Bones thing. I was like, well, I
Right.
can sculpt some figures and put them out there. And at that time, it was very difficult to find female character models that were practically costumed, or
Right.
somewhat. I mean, I I still get hit with the fact that like a lot of my stuff is pinup looking, and
Hmm.
that's fine. But but I tried to, that first batch of stuff I tried to make. And Vicky was in on it with me. She was like, she's got sign off on all the stuff that we do, and
Sure.
so, we tried to make something that it was like, well, there's not a lot of this stuff out there. And so, over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of other stuff. And the stuff that Annie Norman is doing with the historical things over at Bad
Yep.
Squiddo, over in the UK, that's
Yep. We're gonna have
fantastic
her on the
stuff.
show, hopefully in a couple of months. We
Oh, that's
we
great.
gotta
I,
mesh
I,
our
I will watch
schedules.
that
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's proliferated now. So, and that's kind of cool, because it's like, well, I'm really more interested in doing pulp sci-fi stuff. And so, we put the Counterblast game out in 2014, and then we did the second edition, like 2 or 3 years ago, of 2018. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I want to kind of get back to working on that, and focusing on that type of stuff, and try to get away from doing a lot of controversial models. So
Yeah. Yeah. So do you find it helpful to have that setting of Counterblast, that kind of framework? Because if I remember reading through it, it was pretty open ended as far as the kind of models you could get in there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and we supply models for it, but it's
Sure.
kind
No,
of
no,
got,
I know.
it's not as agnostic as say Stargrave or some of those other just like
Right.
generic kind of things. Um, because we
No, I
want to
meant
be able to, like,
you left a lot of room for you to do pretty much what you wanted to do with it.
oh yeah,
That's sort of
yeah,
what I meant.
right.
Yeah.
So if I get bored sculpting little squiddy guys, well, I can go over here and sculpt robot guys, and that, so there's a whole spectrum of kind of stuff. And we just put out those clan sister models, because it's like our most neglected range was the Niran, and
Right.
they're kind of Vicky and I took these concepts of like dark elves and Klingons and like the Martians from John Carter, and just all of these
Yep.
different alien tropes, and put it in a blender and mixed it all up, and it's like when you get Niran, and that's kind of an Avatar and all this kind of thing. So that's kind of what they are. and
I
they're
think we
sort
might
of
have
a.
pictures. There we go.
We
Great.
got
Good
we
job,
got some
Justin.
pictures.
Thanks.
Look at that.
Yeah, yeah. Now these are
Great.
very tall. These are like 40 to 45 millimeter. So they're bigger than that's a 40 millimeter base that she's on. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to kind of start filling out the models in this range because we only had just a few. And Heather O'Neill sent me some pictures just the other day of a whole bunch of ones that she had painted up from the previous model that we had, and those were gorgeous looking. But they're armed with like long
That was
rifles
that. This one
or
is I
swords and
thought a
pistols.
particularly good representation of your
Yeah.
work, Pat.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of fun sculpting these. They're pretty cool. What you can do with them. So
Yeah, I like those a lot.
thanks.
Yeah, those are great. And those are
Yeah,
a little bit taller scale, you said 40 to
yeah,
45
yeah. These
millimeter. Okay.
are yeah, they're about 45 millimeters tall.
Oh,
So our
you've got
little Huber
Michael's interest
guys,
now.
yeah,
No.
they
Well, because I wanted to bleed in a little bit to Pat every year, and we'll comes to ReaperCon, and
Mhm.
Bombshell supports and the MSP competition, and has
Mhm.
actually his own category. You want to talk a
Right.
little bit about your how you contribute to the MSP Open?
But yeah, we sponsor a manufacturers award in the painting
Mm-hmm.
contest, and in previous years we've had some little trophies, little 4-inch trophy things that we've produced here. And last year was the first year that we were able to put out like a 12-inch trophy. I think it's 12 inches tall. When we call it the Golden Melee, because Melee is kind of our little mascot, mechanic
Mm-hmm.
character. And so we made gold, silver, and bronze trophies and stuff to give out with that. But because of the way that the MSP Open is structured, we kind of wanted to do something where it's like, well, everybody that paints a Bombshell miniature, they're going to get an award, kind of like I guess they give out what, coins or something, or they're little medals, right? At the
Yeah, they're medals.
Oh, Reaper. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
metals.
Yeah, so Vicky came up with this great idea. She found these dog
Yeah.
tags
Here's
on
medals.
the MSP medals
Yeah.
that you got there. Well,
Yeah.
Vicky found these really awesome dog tags that we ordered actually as the painter center. Let me show one of these. So if you enter any Bombshell, and I don't have the chain on it, but if you paint a Bombshell miniature,
Mm-hmm. Cool.
we're going to give you a gold, silver, or a bronze dog tag, and it's got a little
Mm-hmm.
place to put the chain on, and you can wear this around at the show, or put it on your painting gear, or something like that. So everybody will get one of those that enters based on where they are in their painting journey at that particular time. So, and it's been kind of cool over the last couple of years that we've been doing that, is to see it's like, well, they we had a bronze thing last year and they got a silver thing this year. So
Mm-hmm.
that's always cool, and it's thanks to great stuff on the internet. We not only sponsored the MSP contest at Reaper, but also over on Miniature Monthly, which is Aaron Lovejoy's Patreon
Mm-hmm.
thing, that they have a painting contest there too, and we also offer a Golden Melee trophy for their contest, which I think is either just wrapped up like this week or close or something
Nice.
like that. But they just ran that, and so we're waiting to hear back, what the results are. So, but yeah,
Cool.
we enjoy doing that every year.
Nice. So a couple people have asked in chat. This is me just goofing around. This is a little personal project. This is an old 54 millimeter Finari sculpture by Werner, and I did a little minor conversion, added some wings to her. I thought she'd be cool as an angel. So this is just something I've been working on. Last week I worked on the shield and wasn't showing off her yet. So that's kind of what I'm doing behind the scenes a little bit as we're hanging and talking.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
Pat, it's not just Bombshell miniatures, but we mentioned this kind of briefly earlier. You do a lot of work with Jim Ludwig over at Dark Sword,
Mhm.
and you're kind of the go-to sculptor on what is it, Stephanie Law's stuff?
On the Stephanie
Stephanie
Law
Law's
stuff.
range?
Yeah, I kind
And
of
Yeah,
Dieter Litzy stuff, I think we have some examples of that.
yeah,
yeah.
I got two pieces, and these pieces that I did for the Dieter Lizzie thing were pre-pandemic. So I mean, it was like I did those a year or two ago, and they were just he wound up just
It's
recently putting
sad that
those
that's
out.
a cultural marker for us now.
Yeah, right. Well, there's this big gap. It seems like it's like,
Yeah,
well,
I
there's these
know.
things that happened, and then it stopped, and
Yep.
then for a while, and things picked up again. So yeah, so that's pretty much the last uh,
These are
client
yours,
work that I've done. Yeah. Oh,
right?
those little
These little
foxes
foxes?
are
Yeah, these are
the
yours,
foxes are
right?
dark
Those are
sword.
neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some. I mean, you've done a lot of great things, but these foxes are just amazing. And I did this piece a few ReaperCons ago. But yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
have
great.
another piece in the Brainworks right now with a bunch of your foxes for maybe
Oh,
this
okay.
ReaperCon. So
Very cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that was a lot of fun to sculpt.
no.
I enjoyed working on the Stephanie Law stuff is very challenging because like the early stuff that I did, it's not
Mm-hmm.
designed for 3D interpretation at all. I mean, it's
Right.
pure art,
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to do a lot of futzing with stuff to get it to work as a dimensional sculpture, in real space. So that was pretty challenging. And some of the later
Mm-hmm.
pieces that I did was she started designing things. It's like, well, here's this character. I did some other like Kitsune pieces for Dark Sword that
Mm-hmm.
in some of
Those
the
are
more
great.
recent things.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah,
those
Jen
are
Haley's
great.
got painted one of those, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun working on that stuff. But I really like
Yeah,
working on the digital
yeah.
things. So
Yeah, Pat, all he sends me are, this Bobby Jackson guy or Jason Weeby guy sculpts. I don't ever get a Patrick Keith sculpt to paint from
yeah,
Dark
well,
Sword.
if I did some more stuff for him, then you'd probably probably spread the love more. I don't know. Uh,
Right, right.
but
So, you are totally set up now. And where is it? Oh, shit. I wanted to make sure that we showed this off. You, we chatted night ReaperCon 19, and
right,
you spun these up for me, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you are set up as a resin caster. You can spin metal too, or no? Just resin or
No,
metal also?
yeah, no. All of our metal stuff that we did goes through Valiant in
Okay.
Madison, Wisconsin. So Valiant
All right.
does all of our stuff, and
Yeah.
then but everything from, let's see, when did we run that? The Babes 4 Kickstarter was
Yeah.
what we used in order to fill out the shop with the rest of the pressure tanks and really set up to do production resin casting. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was our first Kickstarter project to do. Like, well, I don't want to say that because the Critterkins that we did back when we were over at the other house, we did
Mm-hmm.
that with one pressure tank during the summer,
Oh wow.
and that was a long project to fulfill. So when we did this one a few years ago and finally got set up here, I was like, well, I need more resin tank, I need more pressure tanks and bigger pressure tanks. And so, yeah, so I ran that for you then. And I've run a few things. I ran a piece for Tony Dietrich that he sent me, and he
Mm-hmm.
was happy with that. And so it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, this is the one of the Dark Sword sculpts that
Yep.
I did. Yeah.
Really cool. Super cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I like the little wizard guy. He was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
he's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Markham painted that one for the website. I remember seeing it. He
Yeah.
did a fantastic job on that.
Yep. It
I
turned
love your
out really amazing.
spaceship too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That
something I was going to mention is that you've been, because of your counterblast setting, you've been doing a lot more mechanical stuff, hard edge stuff. I mean, I know you do robots, but they're kind of
hmm
android robots. But the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
spaceship is really something.
Well, thanks. Thanks. This we launched that Kickstarter in I want to say February or so. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been all year we've been working on that because I let that project get away from us, and I kind of overindulged on stretch goals on that, and
Mm.
so we wound up unlocking a lot of stuff. The other problem we had with it when on this particular project was Vicky hurt her back earlier this year and was
Mm.
out of pocket for a couple of months, and so that really kind of affected us being able to produce, run the production on it like on schedule like we were expecting. So but we're still working on this, and I've got another update that I'm going to post on the Kickstarter project tomorrow because we just wrapped up casting some of those new releases, and so I've got some new parts and everything. One of the next little batch of stretch goals, and we're going to send out some more of those ship kits and stuff for fulfillment next week, and
Nice.
so we're kind of get that wrapped up because we want to try to run our next Kickstarter for Counterblast, which is going to be a book for the Savage Worlds role-playing game. So
Oh,
we're
neat.
going to take that setting, and Vicky's already written all of the rules and adapted it for that system, and expanded a whole bunch of the stuff that we have from just the tabletop battle game, and she's working on some new background material and all that for it. And we're going to put out a whole bunch of new miniatures and everything for that. So character
Holy
models
moly.
and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We had they have a submission process at Pinnacle, and basically you submit a proposal. I guess it's like, well, here's what we want to make, and here's what it looks like, and what's going to be in it, and all that. And then they send you back a thing whether it's approved or not. And so we got onto the little ACES program as a publisher, third-party publisher. So we can use their rules and so forth, and we can publish our own book. And that's
cool.
pretty exciting because they've got a built-in, player base for that. And so
Well, Shane's
as
been
soon as
real
we can get the,
innovative with how he runs that Savage World
yeah, it's
stuff.
great. Yeah, we have a lot of the Savage World stuff, and
Yeah.
it's a great system, and it fits really well with how Counterblast kind of works, and with their what is the bennies? You get the little benefit tokens and things to do stuff, and it's a really neat system for an RPG. And I know that Reaper put out some Savage Worlds minis for a while. I don't know if they're still doing
Yeah.
those.
There was a few that came out.
Yeah, I know Bob and Julie were
Yeah.
sculpted some.
Yeah, Bob. I think Bob sculpted a lot of them. I think Julie might have
He
too.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Bob sculpting a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So,
hey, Patreon. Let's not forget about your Patreon. Tell us what you got going on over there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's actually on hold.
Okay.
Over the last year, and the reason being is because we've been casting stuff for the spaceship Kickstarter project.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Never mind.
that's pretty much taken up all the time on that. But
Okay.
I when we did the Patreon thing before, I was sculpting. Each month we'd put out the little digital files, for the patrons and stuff, and then I would take those files and we'd print them and put them into production. So it's like all of the stuff that's on that Patreon is in production in the web store. Like, we have resin copies of it, and you can get the STL files out of our web store. But we're a little bit behind on updating it. So there's like 3 or 4 months still that we have to go to update that.
You're
And
a two-person shop. I mean, good gosh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for just the two of us to keep up with. So we kind of run behind schedule a lot, unfortunately. But we also have a My Mini Factory shop too, so you can get STL files over there also.
Yeah, we had Christine Van Patten on last week, and she uses My Mini as well, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a ton about it personally.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat setup. It's like it's all these different creators that have their own little page on it, and they have a catalog of their STL files from their sculpts, and you can just down, you pay whatever, you buy them. Basically, you put them in a cart and check out, and then they give you a STL download. But they've also got like a new feature over there that's like they're calling it Tribes, and it kind
Yeah,
of runs
it's
like
like their
Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah.
It's like their Patreon, right? It's like a
Yep.
subscription type of thing where it's like, it's 10 or $15 or whatever that you want to subscribe to whatever artist or contributor. And then you get access to either the models that month or their entire catalog, or there's a bunch of different things the way that they've got it set up. I
Oh,
haven't
cool.
had, since they've launched the Tribes thing, I haven't had time to go and look at what all the details are
It
to
looks
see if
pretty
it would.
cool. I mean, it caught my interest for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's there's a lot of stuff
It's
on that.
pretty turnkey. I mean, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's as you can put as much customization in as you want to it, or you can leave it pretty bare bones, and it's neat. What are you doing?
Oh, people were asking about the wings that I put on the Fenari. So
yeah,
I did a little. This is where I got the wings from. Was this this miniature sculpted by Jeff Grace? It's an older figure.
That's great.
But the wings just fit. I think nice to scale to her.
That's a great looking model. I really like the pattern that you've done on the loincloth or whatever skirting. Yeah. That looks really neat. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's and I am tying it into the shield a little bit too. So her shield will be somewhat over there. So
it's going to be pretty sharp, Michael.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
Are you going to be bringing that to ReaperCon next year?
If I finish it. I have I try to finish things. Sometimes things sit for years and don't get finished, and finally they get finished and they show up. But yeah, that's
hopefully we'll run out of variants by then.
God, right? So
how funny.
What? Yeah, and Pat's a painter too. Don't just get the Sculpt Dude moniker out there. Pat's painted his minis, and he's painted at a I would say easy gold level. Pat's a very accomplished, award-winning painter himself. So.
Right. I have won some little trophy things for my painting. Yeah. So I enjoy it. I love painting miniatures. I wish I had more time to do a lot more of that. But last year at ReaperCon, Vicky kind of stepped in that by throwing down the gauntlet to everybody because at the awards ceremony, when we were giving out the awards, she said, well, I see a lot of you here that, have bought miniatures at the show, but we only had so many entries. So there, I know somebody in the audience was yelling out "challenge accepted." So when we came back to the room, I said, "Well, now that you've thrown the gauntlet down, that you're going to have to paint something and put in the show next year because you can't show up empty-handed after after doing that." So she's like, "Oh,
so
well."
She is writing a check you have to cash, apparently.
You're right. So I'm sure that between now and Labor Day weekend, we're going to be slinging some paint and stuff here in the studio and trying to get something to enter. I know she wants to paint some of our stuff, which is like, well, that wouldn't qualify for our award thing, but it would be something neat to paint or whatever. And I've got a couple of projects in mind after being inspired by Aaron Lovejoy's masterpiece that he had with the Voldemort figure. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, it's right up your guys' alley.
So ReaperCon's only 10 months away, right? So,
right. Oh. And I've already started working on some of the things that I'm going to do for that. And if I can get it done in time, I'll bring it.
I've been hearing a little bit about it. I think you were talking about it at the last ReaperCon, but we'll wait until you are firmed up on those plans, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have you on again when you're ready to throw that out there.
Exactly.
That'd be great.
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, Justin, let's do a sub count really quick and remind everybody to throw some subs in if they want to win a Poke Tool. 3 subs get a free Poke Tool.
Correct.
a show exclusive tool. You can only get this if A, you're a guest like Pat is today, or you win one on the show, or you get Jason drunk and he gives you one. Those are your three options.
I don't think I have very many. I only have a couple.
Okay. What are we at right now, buddy?
We're
But
currently
you
at
can
4
get me
subs.
drunk if that's really your plan. That's fine. I'm good with that.
I think he said we're at 14 subs.
We're at 4
Jason.
subs, 1 giveaway so far.
One giveaway. So we're at two
Four subs.
giveaways.
4 subs, 1
Okay.
giveaway.
All right. Oh, hey, Pat.
There we go.
Look what I found.
Oh, holy
Oh.
cow! That's
I've got one of those out in my backyard.
Yeah.
that's the statue thing that the birds were in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I even
I've
sent you
sculpted
a
that for-
picture, tagged you a picture of it in my tiki bar, Pat, long
Oh,
time
yeah?
ago. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know
Yeah.
there were copies of that running around.
Maybe
I had
I'm
sculpted
not
that for
supposed-
Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how.
Well,
I
we
got a
don't
hold
know
of
where
this.
we got it.
Yeah, I have no idea where I got it, Pat.
It just
Yeah.
showed up one day, and it just kind of worked itself right into the rest of the decor. So I didn't
Right.
even know you had sculpted it until you said something a few years later. So
Yeah,
I thought, well,
I did that.
how did I
and
get
did
that
a-
thing?
It's the headpiece to the Staff of Ra with the
Right.
crystal in it.
Uh-huh.
I did that for him, and I thought there was something else, but yeah. Do I have any copies of that stuff? No.
Boy, does that sound familiar.
Yeah, that does. That does.
Oh, yeah. You're the one that gets most of the copies of everything, Michael.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, you get them
Uh-uh.
long before I do.
Well, they're not mine. I have to paint them and return them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they're not actually, I don't actually get them
Yeah.
unless I
That's
paint
fine.
them and send a picture and then give you the miniature afterwards, which I've done a
But,
few times.
you know, it's
as well.
holding it in your hand.
Ah,
I mean,
yeah. Even if it's for a
that's
short
all-
period of time.
I don't know about Patrick, but, you know, beyond the scant compensation, the probably a close second is actually finishing a miniature and having the production piece in your hand.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What else? Do we have any
So
other
you've got-
photos to show off?
Captain Morgan, I can't remember. I sent.
Boom.
Yeah, that I wanted to talk about that because I really got a kick out of that one.
That's a sculpt that I did for Victoria Miniatures.
Yeah.
And again, this is a pre-pandemic piece. And I hadn't heard from her in about a year or so.
Yeah,
And so
they've been having fun in Australia.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. But I had finished this like I think right when the epidemic thing broke out, like right at the beginning of it. And so I said, "Hey, were you still interested in picking up this model?" And she was like, I'll let you know." So I was like, "Okay." 18 months goes by, and then she emails me back and says, "Hey, were you still interested in finishing that figure that?" I said,
Yeah. I got a very similar email a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago, and then
Yeah.
you know, she had paid me for the stuff too. I mean, it was all a done transaction, and then it just
Right.
vanished. And I thought, well, she just paid me, so I couldn't gripe, and she just tossed me all in a can or something. But
Yeah,
no, she surfaced again and said, you know, she's starting to ramp up again, so that's great.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
I
this
told her,
one
I
I
said,
thought
"Well,
had a lot of character.
oh, thanks.
I could see it
Thanks.
being used in a variety of games.
Yeah.
You know, I have to
I would
say,
have it as a bounty hunter for Necromunda myself.
Yeah.
if you
Right.
if you would have popped up this photo, I wouldn't have said this was Pat's piece.
Really?
Yep. I mean,
There's a
I
lot
can
of
see it
animation in
now
the
that you
face.
say that, but
Uh-huh.
it's a fantastic piece, but it's not
It is.
it's not just screaming Pat Keith. I see some stuff, even the Stephanie Law stuff, or maybe just because I know, I'm like, oh, that's
Uh-huh.
Pat. But
Yeah.
this it doesn't
The
scream
hair
and
looks like a
slap me in the
departure
face,
to
Pat
me
Keith.
from your
Yeah.
normal, your
Ooh,
your
face
regular
too.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it looks
Yeah,
great.
she gave me some notes on it. She said, "Well, hey,
Mhm.
can you put this on it, or add some more details, or can you make her hair wild and give her like a wild expression?" And I said, "Yeah." So I went in and tweaked it and touched up some things on it, and she was like, "Perfect," you know. So
Yeah.
I sent it off to her, and it's out now. It's like her new release, like this month or something like that. For like if you buy $50, you can pick it, you know,
Right.
as
Right.
one of the things, which is
Bonus
a
miniature
cool.
or whatever. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's
I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember what she
fantastic.
calls them.
But I'm supposed to be
I
doing
asked.
huh?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to be doing next. I think she wants to do an Adepticon piece, so
Hmm.
I'm redoing her pilot mini for her next, and then I'll probably do the Adepticon thing for her again. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a lot of fun collaborating with Victoria because she gives me these sketchy ideas, and
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know she's working in an established aesthetic. You know, it's like, well,
Hmm.
it's got
Right.
to look like this, but not like that, and you know, so it's kind of weird.
So
But
you're calling Victoria sketchy. That's what I heard.
no,
No.
no, my work for Victoria is sketchy. So
Oh, I heard. I
She
don't know. I'm
she
staying with what I heard.
she
Yeah.
tends to just
okay,
do thumbnails and
Yeah.
likes
yeah,
to cut you loose on a project, but then
right,
it does need to fit into her look. So it
yeah,
is it's always a challenge, but it's always fun.
right. There's a lot of
I like
latitude you get. Yeah.
I like to ask the next question to all the sculptors, especially the ones that I've known for quite a while, and the ones that when I first met were doing everything traditional with green stuff, with putty or whatever, that have now shifted over to the digital world. Pat, when you made that shift, that commitment, that laborious learning of the software, how has it? I won't like, go down the road of how hard was it to pick up because I'm sure it was, but what has it changed or opened your eyes in you being able to maybe realize something digitally that maybe you couldn't do traditionally, or maybe you're too intimidated by, or that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're asking, and because I've had this conversation with other sculptors,
Mm,
and for me, when I was sculpting traditionally, there was always these things that I wanted to do that I wasn't quite able to do in putty because of particularly like the mechanical things or the hard edge things like robots and
Yep.
you know some of the hard surface stuff. And I knew that digital was going to be the medium for that. But I was, you know, and this was way back in like 2009 or 2010 when I first went like full time as a sculptor, or even before that. I was watching the stuff that Raging Heroes was putting out, and all of their stuff
Mm-hmm.
was digital. They
Yeah.
had these access to high end printers that they were printing their stuff on and putting that into production. And I went, well, this is where miniatures are going. This is where this stuff is going to go. And so in 2012, when we launched the first Kickstarter thing, I bought ZBrush then and started sculpting stuff. And I'd played around with it, but because I was full time as a sculptor at freelance and my income depended on that, I didn't have the free time to really explore just completely transitioning over to digital because it's like, well, I don't have the schedule to sit
Right.
around and experiment with this new tool because I've got to turn over a certain amount of pieces in order to pay the bills. So
Right.
it
And
took me a
ZBrush wasn't
long
cheap to
time.
start with.
It wasn't. Well, when I got it, it was like $600, and now it's closer to
Yeah.
like, what is it, like nine, or it's like $1,000 or something
895,
like that.
something like that.
Yeah,
But all the updates have been free as long as you're grandfathered in. So
right, right. Yeah, so
I
you get
I
I
I
just
really have
download it.
no complaints about the company. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, and actually they've been pretty good to me. It was kind of fun going out to the ZBrush Summit when Chad and I
Yeah.
went out to Hollywood. We got to meet those guys and talk to them and everything. And so I kind of they sent me an invite for like one of the ZBrush releases. Like, hey, do you want to get in on the beta thing? And I had to write back and tell them, it's like, well, I don't have time to because you had to document, bug things and all this type of stuff, and I wasn't able to do that. But it was nice to be asked. So and I would recommend, if you get a chance to go out to the ZBrush Summit, if you're into that type of stuff, it's a really cool experience.
We live vicariously through yours and Chad's posting. Chad, by the way, is Chad Hoverter from DMG Miniatures. So
Right.
have a look at his stuff if you can.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff. He started out doing the mice on the Mice and Mystics board game, and now he's got his own Patreon deal out there that he's doing on for the DMG minis. They're pretty amazing.
Well, I didn't want to like digital sculpting, and it fought me, and I fought it, and I'd spent all my life working with my hands, not necessarily putty. That was a little later in life, but carving and building things, that was always what I did. And to sit in front of I bought ZBrush, I don't know when. I mean, it's, it's like, oh, I had it before it was cool or whatever, but I had it a long time ago. But until they brought in the Dynamesh, it really didn't gel for me. It seemed like a clunky, cumbersome way to do things. But once I could catch on to it, I think it's an extremely valuable tool, and there's a lot you can do. I'd still rather probably do cloth folds and maybe hair in putty, but so much more that you can do with ZBrush with iterations and posing, and I mean it really is wonderful. We talk all the time about how it's kind of democratized the whole idea of sculpting, because once you learn it, pretty much everybody has the same tools. And then it's just it's sheer, okay, what do you got? What's your artistic aesthetic? What's this? What's that? And we're not necessarily messing with putting putty in a putty oven or cooling putty down in between so it doesn't cure too fast. We're not doing that kind of stuff. So I think it's removed a lot of those barriers in a lot of ways. I mean, just look, it's exploding. You and I have lots of competition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that once the video game guys caught on to like, oh, well, this is what you need to do to sculpt miniatures, it's kind of saturated the pool because they were already adept at using 3D software. But I think that they lacked what was required for physical production. It's like, well, what's going to happen to this file once I print it and try to mold it and cast it?
And there's some wonderful things you can print that can't, that wouldn't be producible. I mean,
right. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, well, there's a lot of undercut things and fine things that you can
flying
support
hair
on
and flying chains
but
wonderful. I mean, it's great that you can do that now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. Greg Zuniga says something too, and I was gonna say this, and I looked down in the comments, and Greg says, "Yeah, but they don't understand what makes a good mini." And as a painter, I think there's a lot of times I will see things in the stores or online or whatever, going, "It's an interesting concept, but to me, it looks like a toy." And these are toys, but I want a miniature. I don't know that different way to say it. I want that character. I want that feel. I want that vibe. I want that personality. And I do believe those folks may be coming over from, everybody's got a different background where they get into it and where they're going. But I think you guys, and I'm going to throw Bob and Julian, I'm going to throw Gene and throw Bobby Jackson in and as well, just because I know all you guys so well, watching you guys push the putty around and then watching you do digital. I see who you were before in your digital, which is cool.
Thanks.
And you create an actual miniature, which I think is neat because there's the proliferation of miniatures out there these days is incredible. I mean, there used to just be a few companies. Oh, there was Reaper, there's Darksword, there's Reaperlive, there's Grenadier. Games Workshop, Privateer Press, weird. That's pretty much it, right? Now, God, there's all these Patreons and there's all these My Mini Factories and there's all of that out there. You don't even know,
Yeah.
But
And
when
so,
handled properly, the digital stuff is just another tool. So really, it
Yeah.
should reflect the fingerprints of its creator,
Right.
or our concepts that we have in our mind. And that,
And
I
here's a
think
fun
that's
example.
ties us all together.
Yeah. The best example that I've seen lately of that is watching Trey Manners stuff.
I was going to
'Cause
mention that.
Yeah, because if you look
Talk
at
about
the
kicking and screaming.
right, because see, I've had some conversations with him and with some other clients. Okay, right?
Yep.
They were like, I don't like that digital sculpting stuff, and I'm not
Mhm.
gonna. I want traditional, putty and and it's like, okay, fine, but what it comes down to is the cool factor. The people that are buying miniatures and painting them, they don't care how they're sculpted. They don't care how they're produced. It's like,
Right.
is it cool looking? And
Mhm.
can I paint it? That's it.
Yeah.
So the holdout, it's like Steven Spielberg, like, I'll never shoot digital and I'm the film guy. And it's like, who cares? It's like, does it look pretty? That's
Yeah.
the only
It
thing that
just has to
matters.
catch up to your imagination is all. And like I said, any tool, as
Exactly.
long as it can catch up to your imagination, you're set. And Trey,
Right.
the last couple things I've seen from him, it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a Trey. It's not just a maquette. It's not just, it's
Yeah.
suddenly this, I can't remember what she is, but the folds are Trey, the face is Trey, the proportions
Yeah.
are Trey. And
Exactly.
it's been fun to watch. And I hope it works for him because he's got a lot to give as far as miniature design. So
Yeah.
Well, and the Crow's Nest takes full credit for Trey venturing into the
yeah, we
digital
pushed
world.
him.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
on the show,
That's
we
great.
pushed him,
Yeah.
we berated him, and we made him close his shop and go into digital. I think,
Oh, okay.
Jason, that's fair to say, don't you think?
I like Trey, but I don't think I want to go that far. But I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of us that have been working on for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a very lucky recipient of much help in putty and much help in digital. Bobby and Gene, I'd call them at 3:00 in the morning, and they'd tell me to screw off, so I'd wait and call them at like 8:00 in the morning. But they always answered my questions, and so very much like when the old days of one list sculpting, we do try to pass that on. So, Trey would email questions to sometimes to groups that we have and sometimes individually. And we try, you want to answer them. You want this to be something that everybody can do. And because again, like I said, it levels that playing field. It's not just tricks that you can do with ZBrush. It's not just the
Right.
tricks.
Mhm.
It's your brain and your creativity now.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it gets to be fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, I remember him, with a couple of conversations that we had about it, with him complaining about, like, how, well, it's cheating. And, the symmetry and it's, you only have to sculpt one half of the face and all. It's like, right. That's fine.
And then his Cintiq
he
blew up on him, found out you shouldn't leave
Yeah.
it in your car on your windshield, I guess.
Right. But I mean, use the tools that do the job. I mean, the example that I used when I was talking with this one guy at a show that we were having a discussion about, I said, well, so if digital sculpting is not sculpting to you, then what about airbrush art, or what about Photoshop if you're doing oil paintings? If you're going to use Photoshop to do something that looks like an oil painting, why that's not real art? That's basically what you're saying by that. And so we went away from that conversation. Then the next show I talked to him again, and he said, well, I've thought about that, and you're right, the tool doesn't really matter. It's the result. It's what the final thing looks like. It's like, right, because that's what you're going to get. It's like I'm I have an insight into how things, I see how movies are made, or I see how paintings are done, or I see how sculpts are made, or miniatures, or whatever, because I'm inside of that. But for the average person that just goes and picks that blister pack off of the shelf, they don't care. It's like, I don't. Does this look like a cool model? And the neat thing about looking at what Trey's doing with his stuff, and like what we do, is like, well, this is what my stuff looked like in putty, and this is what it looks like digitally. It looks like that. You can tell. It's like Michael was saying earlier about the missionary piece that I did for Victoria. It's like, well, it does look like my stuff and it doesn't. And that's like, right, because even though I sculpted it, I'm really kind of pushing it towards another kind of a style so that it fits in with these other models. But
and I say that with the utmost respect, and because when somebody comes to me and it's like, wow, I didn't know I saw that piece and I didn't know you painted it. To me,
yeah,
that means a lot, because like, okay, I did something that you weren't expecting,
right,
or I spoke in a language that
it,
you didn't know that I could do,
Right.
and that's
Sure.
what I
It's
saw
because
your
you
piece.
keep
I was saying that
growing.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you keep growing is the thing, right? You build on what
exactly.
you have, and then you can branch out. I mean, Pat mentioned Critterkins. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have the line of
Yeah.
the little
So,
animal
so
characters.
those aren't really your traditional Pat stuff, right?
No.
They weren't when they
No.
came out.
Right. Vicky designed all that stuff.
Gene does those
So,
mouselings. That wasn't, Gene wasn't doing cute little mouselings before. So
yeah,
there's always that potential to branch out with the same tools that you've built and the same imagination you've built. And you're right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. That's what it is. I used to carve stone. I have a power carver with diamond bits and stuff. The reason I have a power carver with diamond bits is I don't want to use string and sand. I don't want it to take me 100 years to carve a little piece, right? I want to get it done in a couple of days. So to me, that's, you use the tools that you can. Use a chainsaw maybe instead of a chisel sometimes. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right.
So I wasn't adverse to sculpting digitally, from the beginning. It just took me a lot longer to be able to have the time to go through familiarizing myself with the software, because the foundational tools are still there, like composition and form, and all of that stuff it's the same. It's like, well, I know what I want it to look like, because of all of these, foundational things that I've already built, or gone through. But now I've just got to be able to figure out which button to push or which slider, or how to scribble on the pen in order to get that effect.
Here's a question I often ask other sculptors. Some of us work from concept art, or some of us work from thumbnail sketches. Some of us, I mean, sometimes, well, you get a client that needs something right away, and it's just I call them a verbal thumbnail. You don't even really have a representation. So my question is, for me, it's like I can imagine it in my head, and as I'm working, I'm trying to match that picture in my head. Now, is that the same way with you, or are you kind of building it as you go?
Yeah, and it depends on what it is. Like if it's my stuff, like if it's for Counterblast or it's a Babe or something like that, I'm working off of, like I have a concept, or I'll have seen something that inspired it, or I'll go out to Google Images and collect a bunch of pictures. There's a piece of software, what's it called, Pure Ref, that's kind of a little bulletin board thing where you can put a bunch of pictures in it and put it up on the screen. So I'll do that and kind of compile stuff that I can go just reference things. But if I'm doing client stuff, my preference is to have a piece of hard concept art that it's like, we know
client stuff
this
is
is
different,
what it's
definitely.
Going to be. Because otherwise there's just a lot of revision and, hey, you try this and it's a little bit like that with doing Victoria's stuff, because, well, she doesn't know and I don't know. And so I do a thing, and it's like, well, what do you think about this? It's like, I'll make this, change that thing, and it's like, okay, so I
Right.
go and do that, and then it's like, yeah, that's it, But
Well,
you know,
yeah, there's an area you get after you've sculpted a while where people come to you not just to reproduce what they see, but they want your take on it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
Victoria, the people she gets to sculpt for, that's part of her process is to
right,
incorporate your process in there.
right. And that's what's fun about that is that
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a lot of latitude to do, oh, well, I can try some things and see is this going to work better than something else. So that's a lot of fun because you come up with stuff and it's a little bit of a challenge. Um, but yeah, as far as like visualizing stuff, um, I like working from reference, and I have sculpted some things that are kind of like just pure, like out of my head. Like, ooh, I know I've got an idea
Yeah.
of what this is
It
going to
just
be, and then
pops
I'll
in there and it's
do it.
fully formed, and then you just got to drag it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are
And then
fun times.
what's kind of fun about that process though is being able to like go back and you continue with it. So like if you're working in putty, it's like, well, that's the thing. And if I go back and I want to change that, well, it adds the lot. I can't do it. It's like the pose
Yeah.
is the pose,
Right.
But when you're working digitally like that, if you get an idea later on, it's like, oh, well, this is going to make that better.
Yeah, tweaking it is much
Well,
easier.
you can just go back and like, well, I'm going to, do this. And so a lot of times I'll sculpt a thing like with the Niren sculpts that I just did. I did a base figure and then kitted them out different with different costuming and then posed them differently. So the pose comes like at the end. So I'm looking at this and thinking, how, how she's costumed, how should this, what kind of attitude or what kind of character
Yep.
do I want to have with this version of that? And so that's why I've been wanting to sculpt those particular models for like
Yeah.
since 2014, and I've just now
Yeah.
been able to get back to them because
A little extra tilt on the head, a little extra lift on the elbow, and suddenly, to you anyway, or to me,
Yep.
it looks much, much better. And
Right.
that is an easier thing to achieve, I think, digitally.
Yeah. And I really like that about it. I like being able to do that.
I miss putty, though. I had a dream I was sculpted in putty again the other night. It's like I got up and I hadn't finished it in my dream, and I was kind of upset that I didn't finish my putty sculpture in my dream.
Like the elves didn't come in while you were sleeping.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The dream and finish it, and it's like, oh look, there's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
The old Kev Adams elves that helped him with his sculpts all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Justin, are you still out there? Are you awake?
I just woke up. Yes.
Okay, good. So we last time I checked, it looked like we were around 25 subs.
Not even close.
I think 37 is what I counted.
We were
38.
at 10 subs, so we're giving away 3. And you know what?
We're giving away.
I will do 4, but that's it.
4.
See how that works out.
The fifth one goes to Pat.
Yeah,
So
we might as well round up to 5.
I'll take that
Let's
fifth
round
one.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll round up to 5, and Pat will get the 5th one.
Perfect. There we go. Pat gets the 5th one.
Fantastic.
Get your hashtag free in right now, though, because we're about to try these.
Thank everybody for hanging out and watching with us today. I think this was
this was fun.
Fantastic show. Yeah,
thanks, Patrick.
We haven't had Pat on sooner.
Yeah. I appreciate you inviting me to come on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
We're gonna need to have you back on.
Yeah.
I love to come back.
Show.
Couple of your projects that you got in the hopper, once they start to gel a little bit, let us know and we'll
okay.
Yeah.
We'll
get
you on. Maybe
as it gets closer
previews
to the
would be
Savage
nice.
World
Make a little news,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That'd be great. I'd love to come back and talk to you guys.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Fun.
All right, so I'm ready. I'm see if I can slaughter these names.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. This is always the best part of the show. I mean, our guest notwithstanding.
Oh, Son of Bob has been drawn for the giveaway. Yay, Son of Bob. Izzy Lobo. I'm getting better. It's 2. Mini Mommy. Congratulations. And our final one. Oh, I don't want to give it to that person.
Died.
All right. Cranky Dog. 71. Cranky Dog 71. Congratulations. Yay. So there are 4 Poke Tools. And Justin, what do they do in order to claim these Poke Tools?
We have a great little command in chat there that Quindy already put in. Read that little
Mm-hmm.
snippet, and that's everything you need
Mm-hmm.
to know. The short of it is emailing giveaways at reapermini.com
Okay.
with all the details.
And the
And that's it.
details are what show you want it on,
Correct.
and are they supposed to say thanks for hanging out with us
Yeah,
in the
yeah, they
note?
could say that. Yeah,
Okay.
actually,
Okay. Cool.
they have to list their favorite Pat Keith sculpted mini as well as
Yes.
painted Michael mini.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And
That's
if we
awesome.
don't
I'd love
like
to see
those
that.
choices, you don't win your tool.
yeah, if we don't like the things you chose out of your opinion, it doesn't work. You don't get one. So,
Yeah.
and Jason's the
Awesome.
arbiter. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be the
Okay. No. No.
arbiter. I'm a great arbiter.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a
What
tiebreaker.
happens? Oh, what happens? So Cranky Dog 71 is not a non-US resident.
I believe if you're in Europe, I believe what happens
Mm-hmm.
is we put it on the pallet, and you
Yeah.
might get it in a couple of months. You'll get it
Does
Yeah,
eventually.
he
it
want
has to
to?
come from our UK hub.
Correct.
Does he get a? Or he last time he got a gift certificate instead. He says.
Okay, we could do that too. I
What
talked
kind of
to
gift certificate? These
uh,
are invaluable things. These Poke Tools. I
the
mean,
gift certificate would probably I don't know. We haven't actually I
okay.
don't know what Courtney distributed last time. I'll have to talk to him.
All right.
But
Hey, Cranky Dog's he's just Canadian. It's not like
oh,
he's
Canadian.
just
That's
the
no, that'll
upstairs
come from
neighbor.
us then.
No.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
not
Canada. Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
yeah.
Our
Sorry,
neighbors to the
You just
north.
get taxed
that's
heavily for
barely
that.
non-U.S. resident. That
Yeah.
is
You're like it's like a $50 tax or something like that.
yeah. It's not much.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Something like that.
thank you. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. Thank you, Patrick Keith, as always. Good to see you again.
Hmm.
Thanks,
And
Yeah.
everybody.
we look forward to having you back, Pat.
Hang on,
Yeah.
Pat.
I'm looking forward to coming back. Thanks.
Don't hang up. Don't hang up, Pat.
Don't
You
hang
stick
up.
around. We're gonna disconnect, but you stay here.
Say hello
Okay.
to the otters for us. We haven't rated them.
Oh, the otters.
Do love me some
Awesome.
otters. So
I love
Come
thank
me
you
the
guys
some
otters.
very
otters
much.
as well.
Come watch us
I love 'em.
Friday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Reaper aired on Friday. D&D Madness. Let's kill some stuff.
Have a
Roll for
great night,
initiative.
guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.